Hi there, my name is Christopher Tepetitlan from Shining 3D. In today's webinar, we're going to be talking about AccuWare. AccuWare is a slicing software intended for use with the AccuFab printers. The recommended PC specs are an NVIDIA graphics card, a GTX 960 or higher, an i7 processor, 16 gigabytes of RAM on a Windows 10 PC. The workflow for AccuWare is pretty simple, and I'm going to break down each step in the nesting software process, from importing to exporting sliced files for printing. This is the main screen on AccuWare, the print setting menu. On this screen we have the printer series, where you can select which kind of printer you're using, the printer serial number, where you can select the specific machine that you are printing with, the material that you will be printing with. There's the brand, and then you can select the specific material, and then the layer thickness for that material. On initial setup, you will need to import the printer's profile so that you can select it from the printer serial number list. To do that, you'll go to Settings, Import Printer Profile, and then you can either import offline or online. For online, if your printer is connected to the same network as the PC that you're using AccuWare with, you can import the printer's profile over the network. You can select it from this printer list here. You would select your printer and then hit the import button. Or if you have the dongle, you can insert the dongle into the PC and then select offline import. It will open up the file browser and you navigate to the dongle that you have inserted and select the printer profile. Once imported, your printer should show up on this list here, and you'll be able to print on it. Please note that the virtual machine option does not allow for exporting sliced files. It is simply for testing. If you try to export a sliced file on the virtual machine, it will give you an error and you will not be able to print with it. So make sure that you have imported your printer profile and selected the printer that has the serial number that matches your printer. This tab here has some additional settings that you can edit. There's the rotation angle, the scale compensation, and the contour compensation. The scale compensation will be automatically adjusted based on the accuracy calibration, or you can manually adjust these values yourself. And the contour compensation is to adjust for any contour offset in the printing. Also on this main screen, you have access to Shining 3D Passport, where you can sign in to your account here. And if you don't have an account, you can create one easily for free. Once you sign in, you have access to Engineer mode, as well as AccuDesign software, which we will be going over in part 3 of this training. As well, in the upper right corner, we have 3 menu options. There's the printer list, which will bring up a list of all the printers that are connected to your network. On this list, you are able to see the status of each printer, if they're offline, online, ready, in progress of printing, or finished printing. The second option here is the About tab. This will open up the web-based version of our user manual. This is a great resource for learning more about AccuWare and how to use it. The third option here is the Settings menu. You have options for Load and Save Project. This allows for saving a nesting job for future usage or editing, and you can load that project as well. Please note that when you export a slice file, you are not able to reopen it in AccuWare. So if you would like to reopen it in AccuWare, I suggest saving the project. A saved project can be opened on any printer type, and it will retain any nesting information. The accuracy calibration option, which is available in the open file step of the printing process, allows you to test the accuracy of any individual material type by printing out calibration cubes. This is the accuracy calibration menu. Here, if you press the print calibration model, it will automatically nest calibration cubes as such, that you can export to your printer and then print. Once printed, if If you go back to this menu and select Calibration Model Printed, you are able to input the measurements for each of these parts, and it will automatically adjust the settings according to your measurements. This is to be done per resin type as an adjustment to a resin if you're having difficulties with it. The next option is the Material Manager. The Material Manager has the print settings for both the printers and the materials in AccuWare. If you are in Engineer mode, you have access to over 120 different parameters. Outside of Engineer mode, you have access to several important material parameters that can help you with troubleshooting print issues. For more information about the different material parameters in Engineer mode, see our Engineer mode training guide. Next is our System Settings menu. In this setting, you can change the language of AccuWare. You can open up TeamViewer with the Remote Assistance button. There's the dongle settings menu. There's the Check Update menu that displays any pending updates for the software as well as the material and language packs. If there is a pending update, you will see a red dot in the Settings menu as well as in the System Settings and Check Update tab. The About tab will display any information about the software version and gives you options for both unit of measure and which printer types to be displayed in the print setting menu. And that is all for the print setting menu. The next section is the Open File menu. On this menu, you're able to open files from File Explorer. You can open any file that's an STL, OBJ, or BEB file. Once selected, the model will be imported onto the build platform area. You are also able to use Recent to add a model that you've recently printed. This is the Layout tab of AccuWare. On this tab, you are able to manipulate the model in various ways to properly nest it. On the left side, you have your tools for layout. There's the Move menu, which allows you to select the model and then move the coordinates in specific increments. There's also the Move to Center option and Stick to Platform. And if you are unhappy with the changes to the position of the object, you can always hit Reset. The Rotation tool allows you to adjust the rotation of the model that you have selected. If you are unhappy with any changes, you can always reset the position. Now, say if your model was imported incorrectly and you are having difficulties adjusting it to be flush with the build platform, there is the Bottom Plane tool, which you can select the flat point on the model, and it will automatically stick it to the bottom of the platform. This gray area here indicates that this is flush with the platform and thus would stick to the platform properly when printing. If a model is not flush with the platform in any way, it is considered floating and will not print properly. For instances like this, the model would need support. But if you're planning on printing flat, make sure that the bottom of the model is flush with the build platform. This is the Scale tool, which allows you to scale the model by percentage or specific measurements. You can change the unit of measurement as well as unlock the uniform scaling feature if you want to adjust the scale of specific axes of the model. I do not recommend this for any dental product usage, but the option is available if you need it. Next, we have the Auto Layout function. If you have multiple models present on the build platform and you need to adjust them, you can use the auto layout feature to automatically orient the models in a way that meets the high accuracy area, as well as keeping them relatively centered. Next, we'll move on to the support setting menu. On this menu, you're able to add auto supports or manual supports to the models you have selected. If you have no model selected, it will automatically generate supports for all models on the build platform. Or you can select individual models and support those. This is useful if you have different settings for different model types. This menu here is for the auto support settings. Any settings changed here will also affect the manual supports. Our first option here is the support contact ball diameter. This is the part of the support that makes direct contact with the model itself. And it is a sphere that is inserted into the model. You can see it here. This option is for the general support diameter. This affects the width of the supports themselves. Adjusting these numbers is a good way to troubleshoot any issues where the model is not sticking to the supports themselves. Increasing the contact ball diameter can increase the sticking power of the supports. And if the supports are breaking or bending during printing, you can always increase the diameter of them. The lift height is the amount of height that the supports take the model off of the platform. And then the spacing option is for the space between each support generated. Reinforced support adds cross beams to the supports in order to give them more stability. This is highly recommended if you have tall parts. The base type determines the kind of base that is created when supports are generated. These supports stick to the base, which makes it easier to remove from the platform. The base is also chamfered so that the model is easier to remove. There are several base types, including projection, outer contour, bounding box, and no base. Projection takes the perimeter of the object and projects it downward to create the base. Outer contour does the same thing, but if there are any holes in the object, it will fill those in on the base itself. A bounding box creates a rectangle around the area of the model. This is good for if you have complex shaped objects that you would like to remove from the platform easier. And then no base does not generate a base when you have supports. This is good if you're going to manually add just a few supports and plan on keeping the object adhered to the build platform. Base height determines how tall the base will be when it's generated. And base only will generate a base without supports if you don't have any in place. The clear support option will remove any supports from your selected object, or if no models are selected, all supports will be cleared. The inner supports are supports that are generated between the part and itself, where the general supports are supports that are generated between the build platform and the model. The inner support contact ball diameter works similarly to the general support contact ball diameter, except that it's present on both the bottom and the top of the supports. The manual support option here allows you to manually insert supports wherever you'd like by using the left click button. Just hover over the area you'd like to add a support and then click with the left mouse click. You can also remove supports from any area you'd like by left clicking on those. You can drag and drop the cursor to select multiple supports and then remove them. Once you are done editing the supports, you can click Apply, and it will generate those. This is an example of the inner supports, and this is a tiny area support, which does not have a contact ball diameter. This is for areas that are too small to create a contact ball. And here's a diagram of the support settings that we were talking about. Once you're satisfied with the support generation and you are ready to print, you can move to the next step, which is the slicing step. This will automatically generate a sliced file to send to your printer. Once it is done generating the images, you are given this screen which displays some basic information about your print file, including the printer serial number, the material that you're printing with, and the estimated material consumption and duration of the print, as well as where you have saved the file. If your printer is connected to the same network as your PC is, you'll be given the option to send the file or print the file. This will transfer the slicing file over the network to the printer, where it will receive the file and then prompt you if you'd like to print it or not. The send option simply puts it in the queue on the printer, which you can access in the queue menu, and it should arrive on the top. The print button will do the same as the send button, except it will prompt you if you'd like to start the print. The save option is for saving the file locally. This will open up the file location for you to put on a flash drive and manually take to transfer to the printer. Next, we will talk about some helpful features of AccuWare. In any step of the slicing process, you are able to see this movement ball here. This allows you to quickly rotate the object with freehand if it is not supported. You are able to move the object around when the cursor is in the plus shape. In the rotate shape, you are able to rotate the object around the sphere. If you turn the camera, you can get different angles. On the right side here, you have the layer by layer view. This is useful for investigating if a model is continuous and airtight. It is also good for locating any isolated data that may need additional supports. On the right is the model list with the printability monitor. In the support section, it will give you updates about the printability of your model. Let's say you rotate it at an angle that it would not be able to print at. It will let you know that there are unsupported areas that may need to be adjusted for, and highlight areas that are recommended to give support to. Once everything is good, it'll give you the printable thumbs up, and you're good to go. On the bottom right corner, there's the quick view options where you can change the view of the platform. This is good for inspecting the nested objects to see if anything's overlapping or out of bounds. And then at the bottom is the quick info section, which will give you an overview of the settings you have selected for this print, as well as the estimation on the amount of layers and the duration of the print. It is good to double check these settings before you slice the file in order to ensure you are using the correct material, as well as selected the correct printer for the print. That is it for the basic features of AccuWare, and in part 2 we will be talking about the new features in the 3.1.7 update. This is part 2 of the AccuWare webinar. In this section, we're going to be talking about the new features in the version 3.1.7 update. In the 3.1.7 update, we have many quality of life features, one of which is called one-click printing. I'm going to import some crown and bridge models. With one-click printing, you are able to select the model type from surgical guide, crown and bridge, restoration, and eventually orthodontics model, and the program will automatically position, rotate, and add supports for the models, and then slice the file for you. This is truly a one-click print. This, I will select crown and bridge for these veneer and bridge models. And the one-click printing will auto layout, auto support, and then slice the file. From here, I can export the file to a flash drive or send it over the network if my printer is connected to the same network as my PC. As well, there has been increased printing speed for the following resin types, DM12 and SG01. You can achieve this greater printing speed if you update both AccuWare and the printer's firmware. The DM12 prints are now 18.18% faster, and the SG01 prints are 6.9% faster. To achieve this, there is an algorithm that automatically calculates the peeling speed of each layer based on the density of the print area. Thinner areas will print faster, and thicker areas will print slower. We have added the much requested drain hole feature, where you can now add drain holes to any specific model that you'd like. Just select the model, select drain hole, and then add areas of drain hole with the cursor. And left click. You can change the diameter of each drain hole. As well, you can reset the model to its default state. As well, you are now able to change the layer thickness in increments of 5 microns. There is also a suction cup detection feature, which will notify the user if there is an area of potential buildup if a suction cup is created due to the geometry of a model. AccuWare also has a new user guide that can be accessed through the About menu, as well as video tutorials for importing printer profiles offline or over the network. In the latest firmware version of the AccuFab printers, there is also a new user guide that boots up the first time you turn on the printer. This can help you with the initial setup steps, as well as get you printing a test file. Other new features include improved performance of the file transfer function. The stability of the files transferred to printers over the network is now greater. There's improved performance is the speed of the auto layout feature. It decreases the total amount of time that the automatic function adjusts the positions and rotations of the parts for, thus increasing the layout speed. Improved performance of the manual support generation. It has now optimized the working area detection for generating manual supports, increasing generation speed. We have also added Exocad 3.1 integration. This allows for the exporting of model files straight from Exocad into AccuWare for printing. In order to update AccuWare to version 3.1.7, go to Settings, System Settings, check Update, and then hit the Update button on the update screen. This will open your web browser and download the AccuWare 3.1.7.31 release install.exe. Once this is finished downloading, you could run the installer and it will bring you through the setup wizard. Follow the on-screen steps to install the software update, and once it is done, you can select Finish to finish the installation process. And that is all for new features in the latest update of AccuWare. In the next section, we'll talk about AccuDesign, how to access it, and the new features in the latest update. This is part 3 of the AccuWare webinar. In this section, we're going to talk about the changes to AccuDesign in the latest update, as well as the basic features and the step-by-step process of creating a model. AccuDesign is our model building software designed for use with AccuWare as well as our dental line of scanners. With AccuDesign, you're able to turn scanned files into hollow or solid 3D models for printing. In order to access AccuDesign, you must be logged into your Shining 3D Passport account, which you can access in the upper left corner of AccuWare. Once logged in, you can click on this tooth icon to open AccuDesign. This is the AccuDesign interface. On this menu, you have several options. In the top left corner, this cube icon will return you to AccuWare. In the top right, you have the display menu, which will display information about your software version. There's the help option, which will open up the web-based version of the user guide for AccuDesign. This is a useful tool for getting to know the program. You can select the design type from non-separated model or non-separated die with extra dies. The extra dies function is a new feature in the latest update. You can create additional dies when generating restoration models that are non-separated. The project files option allows you to open up any scan projects that you have from our 3D scanner software. Additionally, you can select upper or lower jaw and select next to import scanned files of different file types like STL, OBJ, PLY, and BLE. I'm going to go ahead and import a project file from our dental scanner. This brings us to the next page, which is the Adjust Coordinates page. On this screen, you can adjust the midline of the model to line the teeth up. You have the option for automatic adjustment, which is very helpful for expediting the process, or you can manually turn each one. There's also the original coordinates button if you wish to undo any movement. And the control scheme is on the right side. Next, we have the pre-processing page. On this screen, we're introduced to the model list, where you can select the upper or lower jaw to change its visibility or its opacity. This is helpful for looking at data that might be hidden behind one of the scans. You also have the view angle adjustment. Similar to AccuWare, this allows you to quickly select an angle to view the scan from. Next, we have the cleanup tools, which is in the bottom portion of the screen. There's the cutting plane, which will give an even cut to the data. This is useful if the scan is pretty lined up. On the right side, we have the OK and Cancel button. This is to accept any changes that you have made or to cancel them. The brush tool allows us to select specific areas with a brush to delete. This is good for fine-tuning certain areas. And you can change the size by zooming in with the scroll wheel. The farther you are in, the smaller the area. The farther you are out, the larger the area. Next is the lasso tool, which is great for selecting specific areas to delete all at once. You can switch between the tools at will to get the most out of your pre-processing experience. Once you are happy with the changes, you can accept the changes. On the right side of the screen, you have the options for remove isolated data as well as fill holes. These are new features in the latest update of AccuDesign. The remove isolated data option will automatically detect and remove redundant fragments that are floating around in the scan. The fill holes function will automatically detect if there are small holes in the scanning data and fill them automatically. You can change the fill range percentage. The house icon in the upper right corner will return to the import screen of AccuDesign. If you wish to discard any changes you've made, you can click this button. Next, we have the model settings page where you can adjust the settings for model generation, including the model height and the model thickness for hollow types. You can select from hollow or solid models. Here you will see we have generated a hollow model. In this version of AccuDesign, the hollow models will now have this honeycomb design on them. This is to both strengthen the model as well as save on resin. On the right side, we have our attachment settings. You can add text to the model by filling in this field here and hitting the text plus button. You can then select the area to add the text to. You can select whether this text is concave or convex, as well as the depth of which the text is either extruded or intruded. In addition, you can change the size of the text as well. The second tab is the drain hole tab, where you can automatically generate drain holes for the entirety of the model. In this version, the drain holes are generated close to the flat edge of the model in order to more easily allow for trapped resin to escape, as well as prevent pressure buildup. You can change the diameter of the drain holes with the option on the right. The third option is the articulator page, where you can add an articulator to the model. You can select from large, medium, or small, as well as articulators for quadrant models. Once the model has generated, you can inspect it one last time and then go back and change any settings if you wish. And on this page, you're able to save the project file if you want to reopen it and change settings later. Or you can hit the print button to load right into AccuWare. Once the models are imported into AccuWare, you can then proceed to nest as normal and then slice the files to print them. You can use one-click printing to nest the restoration or orthodontic models with one simple click. And that is all for information on AccuDesign and the latest features in the most recent software update. Thanks for tuning into this webinar. Hope you have a great day.